You are listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and today we're going to talk to our special guest, Marie Alessi. She is an amazing person that has an amazing story. We're going to learn all about her, and we're going to unpack a topic for today. Healing is a choice, and it all starts with her own personal story. So without further ado, I want to welcome you, Maria, to the show and say, how you doing?
Hey, Shamaya, I'm really good. Thank you so much for having me.
So tell us a little bit about your life and why we're talking about today's topic, healing is a choice, because you have a story of something you've been through, and I'd like for you to share that with the audience.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for asking. We probably don't have enough time to tell you the entire long story, so I'm going to keep that very short, and I understand when I keep it short, it sometimes comes a bit shocking to people. But the short story is I moved to Australia in 2004. 10 months later, I met my husband, and another 10 months later, we were married. So it was an absolute met and we just knew sort of story. And we always stayed that couple, that everybody looked up to, and everybody went like, oh my God, you two, you're so, lovey-dovey and absolutely beautiful. And we really had that sort of relationship, not just on Facebook. And we had two boys, Flynn and Jet. They were born in 2008 and 2010. So we absolutely lived our absolute dream life, the barefoot wedding, the two boys. We had everything we wanted and needed. And we're really happy. Spent lots of time at the beach. I started my own business as a mind coach, mindset mentor. And about 7 years into it, Rob went on a business trip and never came back. So it was completely unexpected, and he passed from a brain aneurysm while he was away on a business trip, and that came as an absolute shock to us, as you can imagine. I was lucky enough, though, that Rob and I had a very different understanding of, what to do in life and how we expected life to be. And we had some of those conversations where we said, what would you do if something was to happen to me? And both of us always had the same answer for each other. We were like, well, I want you to take the boys and create the happiest life possible. And when I heard the news of Rob's passing, it didn't take me very long to remember that and to think, this is it now. Yet, as you can imagine, it was not one of those, okay, I know what to do, and you switch to a flick to happy and everything's fine. It was an absolute surreal moment of, oh my God, I can't believe this is reality now. When we talked about it, it was theory, and all of a sudden to be confronted with that reality brought a lot of choices up for me. And, as you said at the beginning of the show, we are talking about healing is a choice, and I couldn't agree with that more. I had to make a choice, and I knew that I wanted to heal. And I knew that I wanted the boys to have the happiest life possible. And of course for myself too. So this is probably the start of the entire journey. And a bit unexpected, but that's where I am.
Once again, we're talking to Marie Alessi. And when you started this global movement, if you will, loving life after loss, you help not just help people get through that, but you also help people learn about those who are going through those tough seasons in their life. Yeah. So when it comes to grieving, what are some of the common myths that people may not understand come with grief and how we think about it?
I think one of the most common ones is that grief will always stay with you. You can't ever heal from grief. And I don't agree with that, because I know that you can. We have done it. And, when you said my global movement, I just want to say that in a very short sentence here, because it's such a profound shift that happened in my life. I actually wrote about our story how we dealt with grief differently. About 4 months after Rob died, I wanted to share our story with the world. Little did I know that our story became an Amazon #1 bestseller and ranked in the top 100 of Australia. That was so unexpected. And that gave me the idea, that planted the seed for the global movement. So about 5 months later, I turned it into a global movement and started with healing journeys and healing programs and retreats. And I've seen it over and over and over again that people can heal from grief. And for me, I see grief as a visitor that drops in every now and then. And that I'm talking about through triggers or somebody else passing in your life. We just recently lost my father-in-law, which was my husband's dad, obviously. And that triggered so much of Rob's passing. Yet I also saw how much I had grown since, how much I have learned since, the tools that I have learned. And to now see it as an absolute gift, it was such an honor to be there in his final hours. And for the first time ever, I got the chance to say goodbye. I didn't have that chance when my dad passed, and I didn't have that chance when my husband died. But I had it with my father-in-law, and it was absolutely beautiful and confronting and sad and humbling and all of the above, So I think it's how you look at things. When you change the way you look at things, things you look at change. I think it's Wayne Dyer who said that, and it's just so true. We really need to shift our perspectives and choose healing.
Listen, now I'm Refocused Radio talking to our special guest, Marie. I almost give you a nickname. Marie, Elisa.
That's okay.
And talking about healing is a choice. And when you went through this, and it was a journey, if you will. What were some of the ways you tried to keep the good memories alive of the loved ones that are no longer here today?
Yeah, we do talk about Rob quite a bit, I don't try to force it, and I don't avoid the topic. It's just in a completely natural manner, when things come up, like the boys so often remind me of their dad, like my older one really looks a lot like him, and he's already taller than Rob ever was. And, just looking at him is such a impersonated. It's just really interesting. Like when I see things, when they remind me of things, I just tell them, and I just talk about memories of Dad all the time, because I just want to keep it alive and I want to keep it natural. That's the thing, There are families where I know they sort of force it a little bit to have to talk about him every single day. I don't feel I have to. But I think everybody needs to find their own way of doing that. That's the main message here. Really find what's natural to you. And as long as it feels good, it's right. That's all people need to know. If it doesn't feel good, then there's something not right.
And with your website, Marie, you have amazing community that you're building.
Yeah.
And talk to us about that, how that has been able to grow. And are there any stories or a story that comes to mind of someone who shared with you how they processed their grief?
Yeah, there's actually a really beautiful story that I want to share here. When I was in my early days, I opened a Facebook group, Loving Love After Loss, in March 2019. And I remember in the early days, before I actually learned how to shortcut my group, I typed it in. So one day I typed in Loving Life After, and all of a sudden this page comes up from this guy, Chris. And Chris has a website called Loving Life After. And I reached out and I had a look at the website and I thought, this is fantastic what he does. It's really beautiful. It's so aligned with my message. So I reached out to him and said, let's connect, let's talk about it. I have already interviewed him twice in my group, and he's now one of my moderators in the group and one of my biggest ambassadors. He's absolutely beautiful. And Chris actually lost his son to suicide. And he was the one who normalized it for me to talk about suicide, to talk about child loss from a different perspective, because up until that point, I too, and that's another myth in grief I want to bring up there. And I know it's a very, very touchy topic for a lot of people, because most people are under the impression or with that belief that there's nothing worse than losing your own child, that that's the worst form of loss. And Chris normalized that for me and neutralized that for me. And he said, who are we to judge whose loss is worse or easier? There is no loss that's easy. So what came out of that was that comparison never helps in healing. And rather than comparing whose loss is worse or more tragic or more recent or any of the above, we need to learn to hold space for each other and just be there for each other and listen. You know, it takes a special person to have the skills to just sit with you and listen to your story, like you are doing now, Shemaiah. So thank you for that.
Well, you're very welcome. That's why we have you on this platform to share your story, because someone out there listening is going to really benefit from this. And on your website, I like where it says hope, healing, and happiness, because that's your movement that you're trying to spread more love for people to understand that with the broken pieces, they can still live a life that is worth living. And I say sometimes on the show, our pain is someone else's medicine. And when you have
so beautiful.
When you have the ability to use your message as medicine for those who could be still going through the pain. I mean, you mentioned the father, the man in your Facebook group, and that's very intense. What was some of the feeling and feedback you get from people when they joined the movement that you're trying to put out in the world of, hey, you're not alone and you will get through this?
Yeah, it's beautiful, because the main feedback that we are getting is there's a lot of, I'm so grateful that I found this place, because I've been to so many other grief groups, and in most other groups, there is that comparison battle, you know, whose loss is fresher and whose husband was younger and who had more kids and whose kids were younger and whose kids weren't even born yet, things like that. It doesn't help us, you know. In our group, all you get is love and support, and we have healing journeys and programs and retreats and so many things available for literally every person, every budget. And because we are online, you know, we're doing a lot of courses online as well. People can join from around the world. There's really something available for everyone, even journeys that they can do on their own if they don't want to be with other people. If it's in the really early stages, I'll put a program out there, like a little DIY program that is super low budget, and it's literally just to stop the pain, you know. So I really catered for every level and for every part of the journey and for every budget and for every person. It's just, there is someone available to be there and listen around the clock, because I do have moderators from around the globe. So there's always somebody awake who's there in the group, who keeps an eye out for people. And when you said the broken pieces, there's this really beautiful Japanese art. I hope I pronounce it correctly. I never know how to pronounce it correctly, called kintsugi, I think. And that's the art of repairing broken pieces, like vases, for example, with gold. I'm sure you've seen it before. And it's really beautiful. It's not, when you come to a group, it's not that we negate the grief or negate the pain. We take it and we heal it. And yes, you'll always know about it and remember it. But it's what you hold on to, what counts. Because people always say, you know, where's my choice in this? And I said, your choice is in how you respond to what's being presented to you.
Once again, talking to our special guest, Marie Alessi, and healing is a choice. It's the topic that we're discussing. When someone is going through life, one thing that is for sure is that we have choices. And we can't control everything in this world. We can't control, had someone that's on the show not too long ago talking about the rain. You know, we can't control when it rains and when it pours, but we can control how we react to the rain when it starts. And I feel that's the same way with this. When life happens, you get to choose how you respond. You get to choose to say, I'm not going to try anymore, or I'm going to try, or I'm not going to do, or I'm going to do. You don't just go through life without making choices. We all have a choice, but it's up to us to make that choice if we want to love again, if you want to have a life full of purpose. Because if you stay stuck, then what you're doing, you're not really doing anything with your life. But if you want to get unstuck, it's a choice. You have to choose. Like, no one can force you. It's either you do it or it doesn't get done.
I agree. And you know what? I want to actually add one more thing to that. There's a next level of choice where a lot of people sometimes don't realize the choices they have made. And I want to mention one example here. There is, in particular, moms. I hear that a lot, that when they are widowed, for example, that I hear, well, I didn't have a choice. I had to do it for the kids. And I always look at them with so much love, because I can so feel what's going on. And I look at them and say, you know what? You have made a choice to get out of bed for your kids, to be there for them, to make their lunchboxes, to get them to school. And there are moms out there, unfortunately, who don't feel that strength within, who do stay in bed, or who do go down a wrong road of, you know, either drug or alcohol abuse, or worst case scenario, even suicide. There are all these cases out there. We all know about them, and it's important to talk about this. So if you are here talking to me about, well, I had to because of my kids, I want to reframe that for you and say, you chose to. And I want you to own this, because you've done something amazing that not everybody has done or has chosen to do. So if you're talking to me and you're doing it, I want you to honor that. I want you to honor the choice that you have made and that you are making every morning. Please own that. It's so important.
We're talking to Marie Alessi, and she is an influencer, speaker, and author. She is on the show talking about healing is a choice. Her website, Loving Life After Loss. The address is mariealessi.com. When you look at life, you look at where you were, and you look at where you are today, how much have you seen as far as growth from where you used to be to where you are today? Not just sharing your story, but helping everybody to get through their pain.
Shemaiah, I say that from a really humbled space. I have experienced so much growth over the past 4 years that I probably haven't in the 40 odd years before then. You know, I had a chat to a really close friend the other day, and we talked about something that happened like 2 years ago, and it was really incredible. I said to her, I can't believe how much I have outgrown that situation. And we literally used that word, you know, outgrown. And we shared a few memories from her and myself. And it was really incredible. Like, adversity gives you so much opportunity. It's, again, a choice whether you look at the opportunity or whether you look at the pain. But every adversity comes with an opportunity and with hidden gifts. And I talk a lot about the hidden gifts in adversity, and I choose to find them and I choose to honor them, because my husband paid a very high price for them. So I really want to honor these gifts that I have received throughout. And there's an amazing strength, and there's amazing intuition, and also this global movement would have never happened without Rob's passing. And I can see the knock-on effect, the ripple effect it has on the world, and how thousands of people have found new hope and a new way of looking at things just by being in our group. And that in itself is just incredible. So there was an enormous amount of growth, and I'm very humbled and very grateful for where I have come to.
And you mentioned that word adversity. There's a quote by Zig Ziglar, and he said, sometimes adversity is what you need to face in order to become successful. And if you think about it, it's because, well, this is just disclaimer. This is Shemai talking, not him. But what I take from that is sometimes you need challenges to help you focus on the details in order for you to actually grow. Because challenges kind of makes you zone in and say, okay, let me really get to the point versus fluff it, estimate, guess, or whatever. There's no guessing because it's like reality hits you. And it's like, okay, now that it hits you, how do you respond to that reality? How do you respond to that adversity? Do you step up or you sit down? Do you say, it's not for me, or do you say, why not me? Because how we choose to look at it, it really affects how it will be addressed.
Yeah, it's so true that why me is such a common question, and I never ask myself that. But one day somebody said exactly that to me, that when they asked themselves that, they came up with, well, why not me? Why would it be somebody else? Why not me? And that's really interesting. But I never ask myself that question, but I truly agree with that. The challenges are really the one thing that make us grow in our lives.
Man, it's been great time. Great time talking to you, Marie, and about this topic. Healing is a choice, because, I'm gonna go back at it again. I'm gonna keep just harping on it. We all have a life to live, and it's funny I'm saying this because I said this a few times on the podcast, but every now and then I'll bring it up. But our life is a blank canvas, and our gift is to paint. But in order for us to leave our mark on history, we must act. Because if you don't act, you're not putting your paint on your canvas. Because we're so afraid to make mistakes. But what people don't understand is your life, your canvas becomes your masterpiece. So everyone will look at it, and that's your way of your legacy. Because your gift put into action will leave your mark on history. And that's something that we all have the power to do. But sometimes we underestimate our potential, and therefore we settle. But once again, to this topic, healing is a choice. You get to choose, I'm going to be better. Imagine you wake up every day and you just say to yourself, I'm going to be better. And before you know it, you don't just say it. It's not just abstract, but you actually have a strategy. You look for your reality, right? And then you figure out, how do I need to become better? Okay, what's next? What must I do to be better? What must I do now at this point in my life to grow? Like a flower, it blooms, but it can also be destroyed. But if it gets destroyed by our choices, if we still have air in our lungs, it can definitely survive. Because if you have the potential to do things in life, you first have to act on it and believe in it. Because the moment you stop, that's when it's over. See, when you say I quit, boom, you're right.
Yeah.
But when you say not so fast, it ain't over yet. There's still some time on the clock. Imagine what we will do with our choices when we understand our true potential to really go further in life that we never even knew we could be, but it was already in there. It was already potential in there. We just have to grow, and we just have to believe and choose.
Yeah.
Man, once again,
That's beautiful.
You've been listening to I'm Refocused Radio. I know I went on a little tangent there, but you've been listening to I'm Refocused Radio, talking to Marie, Alessi, and Healing is a Choice. People want to join your movement and really push this. I think it's a great thing you're doing. How can they connect with you and talk to you online?
I think the best way is definitely through my website, mariealessi.com, because you've got everything on there. You know, you find my books, my TEDx talk, my programs, my group, and there's also on the contact page, you can just fill out a form and book a chat with me and just reach out. I really encourage everyone, if that speaks to you, just reach out today. Just put in your name, your contact details in a form, and we jump on a Zoom call. And it's just a very quick call to connect and to see what is the best way forward for you. And I'm more than happy to do that for anyone, just to sit with you, hold space, listen to your story. It's a very short call, and there's so much you can change in your life in 10, 15 minutes. I'll work miracles in 10 minutes. Give me a choice, give me a chance, and I'll do it. It's just really beautiful. I really encourage you to reach out.
Once again, talk to Marie Alessi, and Healing is a Choice was today's topic. But man, I want to say thank you, taking time in your schedule, talking all the way from Australia. I mean, that's awesome. I love when I can talk to people outside the United States. So wanted to say thank you for taking time in your schedule, talking to I'm Refocused Radio today.
It was such a pleasure, Shemaya. Thank you so much for having me.